Hey Crafty fam, it's Alex Vanover and welcome back to my craft room. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable faux leather earrings. So let's get started. So the first step to making faux leather earrings is finding a file that you like. And I bought this one from Design Bundles. I will link this guy in the description in case you guys want to use this one. But you can get faux leather earring files in tons of different places. And so as you can see, it imports into Design Space all as one image. So I'm just going to go up into the layers panel and ungroup it. And I'm just going to keep this layer and this layer because those are the two that I want to use for my earrings. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of them. And then I'm going to change this top layer's color to a different color so that I can tell the difference between the two. And then I'm going to lay one on top of the other and make sure that they are proportionate. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to draw a box around the two of them to select them. And then I'm just going to click duplicate, of course, to make sure that I have two different earrings. And then I'm also going to add a shape over here from the left-hand shapes panel. I like to do a star, and I like to make it just 1 inch across. And this star is going to serve as our test cut. So we're going to test the faux leather setting on my machine and make sure that it works before we bother wasting all the faux leather that it takes to make these earrings. So then we're going to go to the Make It screen. And one thing that I like to do is I really like to mirror my earrings so that I can cut with the faux leather face down on the mat with the fuzzy side up. And the reason I like to do that is because it doesn't get as many fuzzies on your mat. And it doesn't make your mat become less sticky as fast if you do it that way. Now, if you're working with a lower quality faux leather, that may not work for you. But I have done this many times with the 651 vinyl, soon to be 143 vinyl faux leather, and it works great for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into both of my earring cuts and I'm going to choose mirror, just like we're cutting HTV. And both of these designs are actually symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if you mirror them, but it's just a good habit to get into. But I'm not going to bother mirroring this test cut just because we're only just going to use it for a test. And stars are also symmetrical, so mirroring it doesn't change anything. So then when we go to the continue screen and once my machine connects, we will start with our settings. So the setting that I like to use on most of my faux leather is the faux leather paper thin setting. So we'll start there, but that's also why we're going to cut the test cut before we do anything else, because we're going to make sure that that setting works for my machine. Because keep in mind, each time that you use a different blade or a different mat or anything like that, it can affect the way that your machine cuts faux leather. So I always recommend doing a test cut before you get into these other shapes. So let's jump over to my machine and I'll show you how I do my test cut and how to cut faux leather. So when it comes time to cut your faux leather, here's the best way that I have found to do it. I really like to use the pink fabric grip mat from Cricut. You can also use a strong grip mat if you have one of those. And I like to take, this is for the test cut of my faux leather, so I like to take a scrap of the thickest faux leather that I'm using, and I want to put it in the upper left-hand corner with the pretty side face down on the mat. But since that's not a lot of surface area to grip, I like to secure the sides of my faux leather with a little bit of painter's tape. That way I know that it's going to stay really, really well as the machine cuts it. So I'm just going to put tape along the top and the bottom just like this. Then let's stick it in the machine and see if the faux leather cut setting works well or if we need to make adjustments. Let's unload our test cut and see how it did. So the outline of it looks really good, but the test that you really want to be able to perform is whether or not it peels off the mat without any areas ripping or having to tear it. So it didn't even cut all the way through the mat. So the next step that I'm going to take is I'm going to go back over to Design Space and move my star over 1 inch or so, and I'm going to do another test cut. I'm going to keep it on the faux leather setting, but I'm going to do 2 cuts in a row to see if 2 cuts is enough. So the way that you get your Cricut to do a second test cut without unloading the machine is just to press the Cricut button again without unloading, and then it's gonna cut another star in the exact same spot to see if 2 cuts is enough to get a good cut. So let's unload our mat and see. I can use my 651 vinyl, soon to be 143vinyl.com tweezers to see how well the star is coming up. So this time the star came up perfectly, except for that tape piece right there. It came up perfectly off the mat and it had no places where it was pulling. So that's the cut setting that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna continue with the faux leather setting, but I'm gonna cut everything twice. Sometimes in between cuts, it's a good idea to take your blade out and inspect the end of it and see if there is any fuzz or any leftovers from the other faux leather stuck on the end. I don't know if you guys can see all that debris, but it makes a really big difference and it makes it really difficult for your machine to cut. So make sure, especially if you're cutting a lot of feather earrings, that you check your machine's blade often. You can also punch it through a ball of aluminum foil by pushing the button and pushing it into a ball of aluminum foil, and that's really helpful for cleaning it as well. So after you have your earrings all cut out, the next step is to create holes in the earrings that are going to be the right size. These files did technically have holes cut in them, but you'll notice that as you start to scale the earrings in different sizes, the hole gets really, really small and way too tiny to work with for earrings. So I'm gonna use a punch that I bought from Amazon by We Are Memory Keepers called the Crop-A-Dial. And if you guys are planning on doing a lot of leather work, I highly recommend grabbing one of these Crop-A-Dials. They are awesome. So I will link this in the description for you guys in case you're interested in checking it out. You can use it for other things as well, but I think it's really useful for punching your own holes in leather earrings. The Crop-A-Dile has two different hole sizes that it can punch. There is a smaller and a larger hole. I can't remember the exact dimensions of the hole, but it's really pretty small. Oh, it looks like this one is 1/8 of an inch and this one is 3/16. So those are the two size options that you have. And the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna punch holes in the first part because this is what's gonna hang on top. So I'm basically gonna create a guide using the top portion of the earring so that I know where to punch holes in the second portion of the earring. So I'm just gonna stick the top end of my earring into my hole punch, and I'm just gonna do the 1/8 inch punch and try to line it up the best that I can. And you also want to make sure that you're not going too far into your earring. You want to stay pretty close to the top, but you also want to leave a little bit of room so that your earring doesn't rip. So some of it just takes practice and figuring out what works best as far as how deep in the earring you should punch the hole. And once you get it centered where you want it, you do have to punch it kind of fast to make sure that the Crop-A-Dile gets the hole all the way through on the first try. So there's one hole punch, and I'll try to repeat it on this next earring. There's also a section right here that shows you where the hole is going to be punched, so that helps a lot as well because you can kind of see based on where the earring is where the hole is going to punch. And so there you have it. So I was super off center from where the original hole was, but that's okay. That you guys will still get the idea from this tutorial. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line up the two layers here, and I'm going to put them both together back in the Crop-A-Dile. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this hole as a guide for where to punch the second hole. So I'm gonna stick it in. I'm always paranoid that I'm gonna use the bigger side. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna stick the two earrings in together just like this, and try to hold them the way that I want them to hang the best that I can. But if they get a little bit off, that's okay. So I always want to make sure to use that smaller 1/8 inch side. So now that I can preview where the hole is going to be in my Crop-A-Dile, I'm going to line up the hole that I made in the purple layer with the hole that I can see through the Crop-A-Dile so that I punch a hole in the exact same spot on the back layer of the earrings. So now I have these two perfectly lined up. I'm just going to repeat that process on this second earring. All right, and now I have both holes punched, so it's time to add some hardware. So I found this set of different metal jump rings and different metal hooks, both on Amazon, which I will link for you in the description below. You can check out my Amazon store and see all my favorite craft supplies, including some of these. And what I love about these two sets is that all of the colors in this little carousel of jump rings match all of the colors of hooks that I have. So that means that I get to use every color of jump rings if I'd like, because I have a coordinating set of hooks, though at the time at least, they weren't sold by the same seller. So like I said, I'll put those both in the description for you in case you guys want to check them out. I'm also going to use a little bit larger jump rings to actually attach the layers of the earrings together. I like to use slightly larger jump rings than these little tiny guys because I just think that it gives the earrings a little bit more movement, but you're free to use any size jump ring that you're comfortable with. My favorite tools for adding hardware to my earrings are my 651 vinyl, soon to be 143vinyl.com jewelry pliers, along with my ring tool. I absolutely love using this little ring tool because it prevents me from having to need a second pair of jewelry pliers. I do have a second pair of jewelry pliers because I didn't used to have the ring tool, but honestly guys, if you guys don't have this tool, you totally need this. I'm going to show you how it works when I put the jump rings on these earrings. So it comes in a one size fits all ring, and it just fits on my thumb. And the way that it works is you're able to pick up the jump ring at the opening using one side of your jewelry pliers. And then you use the ring for leverage, and you're able to open the jump rings super easily. So I just absolutely love how that works. So then I'm gonna go ahead and add my earrings. So I'm gonna add the back layer first, and then the front layer. And then I'm gonna go back and I think I'm gonna add a second jump ring. So I'll go ahead and close this jump ring, again, just using my ring tool. I'm gonna wedge it in my ring and then move the jewelry pliers to the ring in order to close it. I just love how quick and easy that is. So I'm gonna repeat the same step on my second earring. And then we'll add hardware and we are done. I just love how easy crafting with faux leather is. It's super simple and you can make such pretty things so easily. And sometimes I like to take the two sides together with my jewelry pliers and just make sure they meet exactly where I want them to. You can also use this middle section on the jewelry pliers to kind of squash jump rings together. That's another great feature I love about these 3-in-1 jewelry pliers. So then I'm gonna go into my carousel and get a super small jump ring, and I'm gonna attach my little tiny jump ring onto the larger one along with the hook, just to give the earrings a little bit more movement. All right, and these little tiny jump rings can be a little bit of a bear, but I really like to use them. So again, I'm just gonna open up the jump ring using my jewelry pliers and my ring tool. And first I'm gonna add my earring hook, and then I'm gonna add the jump ring for my earring. Then I'm gonna close it back up. And then I'm gonna see how the earring hangs. And you're able to do a little bit of twisting. This one looks like it's okay, but you always wanna make sure that the hook is hanging in the opposite direction from the way that your earrings are hanging, if that makes sense. So if they're starting to hang crooked, you can grip this little spiral piece in the middle, and you can kind of twist the hook around to make sure that they're hanging in the right direction if they don't come out hanging just right. So I'm just gonna open up my jump ring. Whoops. These guys are so small, they're a little bit hard to grip. But I'm gonna add my hook, and then I'm gonna add my jump ring and close it back up. And it looks like these are hanging in the right direction as well. So after you have your hardware added, guys, that is all there is to leather earrings. They're super quick, super easy, and so much fun. If we haven't already connected on social media, I would love to see your work. Please be sure to tag me if you make any faux leather earrings or anything else from my other tutorials at DIY Alex Vanover. That's how you can find me on the vast majority of social media profiles, but I will also link all of my profiles in the description of this video in case you want a super easy way to connect with one another. I love to see what you guys are making and learning about. And if you haven't already seen the live video I did a couple weeks ago on how to make DIY tassel earrings, click right here to check that out. And if you haven't already, please click right here to subscribe to the DIY Alex YouTube channel. Scroll down just a little bit and ring the bell right next to subscribe so that you never miss when I upload a new video, Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope we can craft again soon.